Are you ready to change your life, but don't know how to start? Is your stress and worries keeping you awake at night? Have you been battling grief, anxiety, or depression all alone? Have you lost touch with your own sense of being or spirituality? Soul Free Therapies offers professional and affordable live video streaming counseling and coaching services from the comfort of your own home. Sessions offered in English, Spanish, and Portuguese. Go to our website at www.soul-free.com and book your first session today.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by Aquadam.net. You can give them a call at 707-764-2119. A flooded home is never easy to deal with. You're left with the mess to clean up, the insurance companies to deal with, and not to mention all the memories, the precious memories that are lost in the flood. You can never replace those. And Aquadam can be a tool in your arsenal to protect your home and property from the floodwaters. The cofferdam is filled with water to control water and is reusable as long as it's taken care of. It can protect your home or business from rising floodwaters like a dam, but without the beavers. It can also be used in construction. If you need an area to be dewatered, an Aquadam can do the job. An Aquadam was used at SeaWorld in Orlando for the Mako roller coaster ride during the coaster's construction by dewatering the work area. An Aquadam is now dewatering the work area at San Antonio SeaWorld for their newest roller coaster ride. An Aquadam has been used in many construction projects all around the U.S. and all around the world. Now give Aquadam a call, 707-764-2119. You can look them up online at aquadam.net. You can find them on Facebook at Aquadam Inc. You call them up, you email them, you tell them Ed Opperman sent you, and they're going to take 10% off the price. Aquadam.net, 707-764-2119. PureSoapFlakes.com, 218-568-2525. Have you ever heard of Castile Soap? Pure Soap Flake Company handcrafts fine soap bars, laundry powder, and concentrated soap flakes using organic vegetable oils from their northern Minnesota facility. Bathe your body and wash your clothes with Pure Soap products that are free of fragrance, GMOs, palm oil, sodium lauryl sulfate, and synthetic additives. Keep it clean, folks. Pure Soap Flake Company products are kind to living creatures and sensitive skin, safe for drains and waterways, and work great in high-efficiency washers and top and front-loading machines. They have a little promotion going on. Contact them to order some soap. Mention the Opperman Report. You're going to get a free gift. They're going to send you a little extra soap, travel size, soap bars and laundry soap, cleaning soap flakes. I've been using that stuff all day long today. Great stuff. Order today at puresoapflakes.com or give them a call, 218-568-2525, 218-568-2525. Pure Soap Flake Company is a proud member of the Handcrafted Soap and Cosmetic Guild.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting through my website, emailrevealer.com. Or you can just email me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. If you like our show, be sure and check out our Patreon, where we have all kind of exclusive content. I put up 8 hours of new content every month on Patreon, plus the old member section shows go up there, plus all the shows you hear like right now with no ads. But our archives you can find for free at Spreaker.com. And you can go there, sign up for free. You get an email notification anytime new content goes up. Plus, I do a live show there exclusively every Friday night at 8 p.m. Our guest today, okay, he's the author of the book, Beyond the Cabin. And his name is Jared Garret. And you can find him at his website, jaredgarret.com. And he grew up in the cult, the Process Church of the Final Judgment. And a lot of people have been telling me, hey, Ed, you got to get the Jared Garret on your show. He does a podcast, which you could find on iHeartRadio and iTunes and all those kind of places, called Tales from a Cult Insider. And you can check him out. You can meet him in person in February. Life, the Universe, and Everything. I think that's what it was called. I can't read my own handwriting. Mr. Garret, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. You got it right, Ed.
Okay, that's in Provo, Utah. You can check him out. Tell us about yourself. Who is Jared Garret?
Well, I am Jared Garret, and it's nice to meet you. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to you. I am a husband and a father primarily. I also work. I put about 20 to 30 hours a week into my church assignment, and my life is good. I have 7 kids with my wife. I grew up and escaped from this cult, which splintered off of Scientology. Got out of it when I was 17, and have had a life of increase and challenge and trials for the last 30-ish years or so. But I write books, novels, adventure novels, and do my best to make my community stronger, and also still struggle with some things that are probably relics or artifacts, I guess, of the way I grew up. But all in all, life is a pretty great experience for me.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a really happy guy. 7 kids, how did you not be,
I know, right? It's wonderful. And loud.
In the church, too, and being in the church. It's a great way of life. Now, Beyond the Cabin. Okay, now it's a fictional, it's a novel, but it tells your real life experiences in the Process Church of the Final Judgment.
Yeah, both of those things are accurate. It's a novelization of about 10 years of my experiences in this cult, but I compressed the events of those 10 years into about a 4 or 5 month timeline in the book, and actually, it's interesting. The Process Church of a Final Judgment started in the 60s, and it schismed in the 70s, actually the year I was born. And one part of it actually evolved into something that was called the Foundation Faith of the New Millennium, and then later the Foundation Faith of God. And I actually grew up in that section of it, but there were some strong holdovers from the Process Church of the Final Judgment. And it's interesting, actually. I've only recently, in the last few years, started learning what the actual origin of this cult I grew up in was. It's been eye-opening.
Yeah. My audience is very familiar with the Process Church because, we've done a lot of shows about it. And I'm sure you're familiar with the work of Maury Terry.
Maury Terry. For some reason, I've heard that name. I wonder if it was mentioned in the documentary I saw a couple months ago.
Yeah, the series of books, The Ultimate Evil, about his theory is that the Process Church was behind the Son of Sam murders.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's quite a theory. I know people personally who would say, "What? No way," and I would probably agree with them. But yeah, I think I have heard his name in that situation. Yeah.
Now that's fascinating because you have a podcast, and no one's called up and ever mentioned that to you before.
No, actually, I do every so often get. My podcast is to tell the stories that haven't been allowed to be told. I bear no malice for those folks. They're still around doing something that isn't a cult, doing really good work with animals. But I bear no malice. I don't want anything. I don't want to seek any kind of action at all. But there are times I need to share deep, real things that happened, and so I get a little fiery in that thing. But the idea of the podcast is a positive thing. You're going to tell all these stories that need to be told. But I have had people email me saying, "Dude, don't you even know about these things?" And I'm like, sometimes, yeah, and sometimes this is news to me. But no, I think that, because of my take and the way I'm approaching the podcast, I'm not getting people who are trying to have a bone to pick or anything, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. Now, in the description of your book, it talks about how angry adults who didn't like, and lonely children. What can you tell us about that?
So you're asking about the book that describes angry adults who don't raise their own children? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, what was your childhood like?
Oh, boy. Well, how long you got? No.
Yeah, I know.
I have nearly 100 hours. I've got about 50 hours of podcast. No, it's interesting because one of the key kind of tells that an organization is a cult or cult-like thing is that children tend to be separated from the parents. If you look at every cult that's had any kind of press, children are separated from kids, and it's actually a very much still occurring in Scientology where parental relationships with kids are not encouraged because of whatever reason. I think it's usually because they want to have the focus be on whatever the doctrine is of that particular community or cult. And so what happened for me was I was born in Chicago during the time that the cult was in Chicago. But within a year, the cult moved and headquartered in New York City in Manhattan. And I moved with it. And I grew up with 30 or so other kids, mostly being raised by people who I didn't know, but who I knew because they were in this cult, but not being raised by my mother or my father. Actually, I spent until around the age of 8 thinking that this one British guy who looks like this right through his nose, he's a good dude overall. I thought he was my father because he was legally married to my mother, but I found out around age 8 that this other guy, somewhat better looking to be honest, was my actual father. And that's very symptomatic of the way the children grew up, not being raised by the family or their parents, not understanding necessarily who their actual parents were, and being raised by people who had joined this cult to get away from a world that didn't seem to have a place for them. So they, in some cases, were a little dysfunctional, and in other cases, more dysfunctional. And, that led to some real problems with the way the kids were raised. But, we moved around with the branches as the cult kind of grew and established branches around the western part of the country. And then all the kids were sent to Dallas by the time I was age 11, which is where the kids center was. They called it the Children's Center. And they called it the Children's Center because they wanted all the kids there, because they'd started a small, tiny little school. And I say school, and I have scare quotes around it when I said it, because there were classes, and we were taught by people who seemed to know the subject more or less. But I think it issued diplomas maybe one time, and they were valid. Otherwise, it wasn't an accredited school. And I did that till I was finished my 11th grade year, and after my 11th grade year, I got the opportunity to get out, so I did, and finished my 12th grade year in Kanab High School in Utah. And life has been changing ever since. And that's kind of my childhood in a nutshell.
And when you left their school and went to a regular public school, were you behind the other kids, ahead of the other kids?
Ahead, actually.
Really?
I think, I'd had an experience, interestingly. So I moved a lot when I was younger, much younger. I did first grade in 3 different public schools, ranging from Dallas and to New York and Denver. And I was a heavy reader from a very young age, partly because that was, what else was I going to do? No, there was nothing else to do. I wasn't interacting with adults in any kind of healthy way. And then later, as I got a little older, I found that books and the stories there were a beautiful escape. I could be in a different world for a long time. And so I was reading very heavily from the age of 6, and that, I think, was a big boost for my overall academic achievement. But I was pulled out of 5th grade after being in a school. For the first time in my life, I'd been in the same school from 4th grade to 5th grade, So actually, there was some stability in my life, and I was so angry by being removed from 5th grade after 1 month and to be sent to this faith school thing that the cult was doing, that I actually refused to do any schoolwork. And this is all getting to a good reason as to why I was academically advanced. I got to Dallas and didn't do any schoolwork, and the leader of the branch of Dallas wasn't a very nice person. She had some mental health issues, as well as the choices she was making to treat us poorly. And she actually came to my room one day and said, "Well, you've been banished to your room, Jared, because you're not doing your schoolwork, and I just want to help you learn how important it is to get your education." And she'd brought a plate of cold beans and hot dogs, and then gave me this weird lecture. And then at the end of it, she said, "I know it's hard for some people. Some folks just don't have the intelligence to do really well, but I know if you try hard, you'll be able to do at least a little better." And I heard her say, "You're an idiot. You're dumb. You don't have the ability." And so thus ignited the fury within me. And from then on, I was top of my class all the way through. And so when I landed in Kanab High School, I actually graduated number 2 at Kanab High School. And found that my overall education was good, but my math education was lacking significantly. Other than that, I was good.
I can't do math either. Don't worry about it.
Well,
neither can my daughter.
I'm in a good club then.
Yeah. Now, growing up as a kid, were you exposed to other, you mentioned these few times that you were in school with other kids in 5th grade and then in high school. But did you play with other kids outside of the cult? And did you compare your life to their life? Did you go to other kids' houses?
First off, that last question, I never went to another kid's house in my entire life. That said, when we were younger, much, much younger, and when it was more kind of dispersed, there were several branches that moved around a lot, really. I attended several schools, and so I did interact with other kids and, made friends in those school situations and had some of those stereotypical experiences, girls chasing boys, trying to kiss them, in 3rd or 4th grade or whatever. bullies here and there, being a bully actually